Welcome back to the Screen Report, the only show that treats the entire movie and TV industry like a chaotic, broken vending machine full of stale popcorn, but sometimes, just sometimes, it dispenses a diamond ring. Let's start with the most obvious example of content vampirism. Martin is still trying to wrap up A Song of Ice and Fire, but the Game of Thrones machine? Oh, it does not wait. Word on the street is they've got multiple sequel and spin-off ideas moving forward. Multiple. We're not even halfway through House of the Dragon and they're already mapping out the next 5 continents of Westeros content. At this point, Martin is less a writer and more a source code that Warner Brothers is desperately running through a generative AI. I'm expecting a limited series about the guy who cleans up the dragon's mess in King's Landing by 2027. They will never ever let this well run dry. And if you're not actively creating a new corner of a 20-year-old fantasy world, what do? You reboot the classic sci-fi that has a pre-built audience. Hello Prime Video's new Stargate series. Look, I love Stargate, I do. But this is not a creative decision, folks. This is a content strategy meeting where Jeff Bezos walked in, pointed at a list of dormant franchises and said, "Give me the one with the big circular door. I need more pixels to justify my monthly fee." It's the streaming equivalent of a starving dog eating its own tail. Every IP will eventually be rebooted, and then that reboot will be rebooted, and then the original will be remade as a gritty limited series about the reboot process. Speaking of reboots and the inevitable recasting trauma, you know that Twilight sequel series Midnight Sun that's floating around Netflix? It's animated, which is already a brilliant way to dodge the fact that your original stars are now too famous to play perpetually brooding teens. But here's the kicker. The original Cullen family actors Peter Facinelli, Ashley Greene and the crew actually got together and offered to come back to voice their animated counterparts. They were humble, they were ready, and they were told no. The original cast knows that the franchise is built on one specific, awkward teenage fever dream, and while they were willing to come back for the fans, the machine wisely packed their sparkly brooding bags and told them to beat it. The new vampires will have a much more demanding job looking that uncomfortable for an entire decade. This endless cycle of recycling is not about art, it's about velocity, and nothing screams velocity like hearing that HBO is already working on scripts for season 2 of the Harry Potter series before season 1 has even finished filming. That's not confidence, that's a corporate mandate that requires the content treadmill to never slow down, even if the wheels are currently held together by duct tape and prayer. You know what that tells me? They have zero tolerance for artistic failure. Committed to 7 seasons already, they must satisfy shareholders, regardless of the first season's quality. They've already done the math. Potter equals money, so press play and never stop. And that frantic pace isn't just about production, it's about distribution. We have lived by a set of sacred cinema laws for years, and now they are all collapsing faster than a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Case in point, Netflix is reportedly breaking its own 45-day theatrical window for a huge Warner Brothers movie, allowing it to premiere on the streaming service much sooner. This is pure corporate panic. The religious theatrical window, which was supposed to protect cinemas, is now just a polite suggestion. The theatrical experience is on life support, and the streaming giants are currently arguing over who gets to pull the plug. When you're moving this fast, when the corporate stakes are this high, and when you're dealing with beloved intellectual property, you know there's only one inevitable conclusion. Blood must be spilled. And the Duffer Brothers know it. They've confirmed that in the final season of Stranger Things, a major violent death is coming. This is the oldest trick in the books, folks. When your series has run its course and you need an emotional atomic bomb to end the whole thing, you kill off a main character. It's guaranteed to launch 1,000 think pieces and boost the ratings for the finale. But I'll admit, I'm playing the guessing game too. Who's getting the axe? My money is on Steve. He's too beloved, and taking him out would cause maximum chaos. It's narrative terrorism, and I absolutely love it. Now, I know I sound like a man who woke up on the wrong side of the corporate pillow, but I promise, not everything is an endless cynical churn. Sometimes you have to celebrate the wins. Timothée Chalamet confirmed that filming for Dune 3 has wrapped up, and relatively quickly. Dennis is not just making sci-fi, he's building a cinematic religion, and he's doing it with such precision and vision that the entire industry looks slow by comparison. This is prestige, high art blockbuster filmmaking. It is the gold standard, and I will happily give Warner Brothers all my money for it because they let a genius make his movie. Dune is the exception that proves the rule. If you give a visionary the tools, they will build a masterpiece. Speaking of visionaries who actually care about the experience of cinema, we have Christopher Nolan. Apparently his new film, The Odyssey, is using a lot of cutting-edge IMAX tech, including a blimp for aerial shots, which is just insane and very Nolan. But my favorite part, the genuine triumph, is focusing on fixing the abysmal sound mixing issues that plague modern cinema. He's the guy who invented the Nolan mumble, and now he's the one trying to cure it. Only Nolan has the clout to say, I'm going to spend $10 million to make sure you can actually hear my dialogue, and the studio nods and gives him the blimp. That, my friends, is power, and it's being used for good. And you don't need a blimp or a massive sandworm to be a hero. Sometimes you just need sheer muscle and a prayer, which brings me to Dave Bautista's Trap House. He's out there planning for this new action film to be the start of a whole franchise, and frankly, I'm biting my nails while I cheer. Look, I'm not saying the guy is a foolproof star. His filmography has more flops than a high dive competition. But in a world drowning in Marvel sequels and eternal Fast and Furious road trips, his willingness to try and build something from scratch, knowing his box office track record as a lead, is shaky at best, feels less like a business strategy and more like a high stakes gamble against the house. We desperately need new action mythologies, so I'm cautiously placing my chips on him. If he pulls this off, it'll be a miracle that proves Hollywood hasn't completely forgotten how to build something from scratch. But here is where we bring it all crashing back to earth, because this is Hollywood. The great Guillermo del Toro recently shared a horrifying anecdote about his career, saying that dealing with the Weinstein brothers was worse than the time his own father was kidnapped. Let that sink in. The physical, actual terror of a kidnapping, and the man says the corporate psychological warfare waged by two Hollywood executives was worse. That is the messy, horrific underbelly of this industry. That is the kind of abuse and manipulation that the PR machine tries desperately to bury under endless announcements of Harry Potter seasons and Game of Thrones spin-offs. So, where does that leave us? Right back where we started. Hollywood is a place where generational trauma and cinematic genius live in the same backlot. It's where visionaries like Nolan build blimps to fix sound issues, while other titans are so predatory their business practices are compared to a hostage situation. This was the Screen Report. Go watch something original, or don't. They'll just reboot it anyway. We'll see you again next week.